For all those of you who joined in advance, I hope you went through this. It said, thank you, first of all, thank you for joining in advance, and the webinar will start in another 1 minute. We had sent across these videos, these warm-up videos, which were to prepare you better for the session. So this way, if you've already watched these videos, you'll be able to gain more from the session. But in case you haven't watched these videos yet, it's okay. After the session is done, go back and watch these. These are a part of your free trial on our platform. So this is important. These videos will really help you cement whatever you learned today, whether you've already watched them or whether you're going to watch them after this session. Now, next very nice thing I want to talk to you about is Scholaranium 2.0. So we have the launch event for Scholaranium 2.0 on May 11, 8 p.m. IST or 7:30 a.m. PST. You will learn about this new product that we're coming with, which is really something we're very proud of. You will get insights that only a private tutor can usually give you, someone really working very close with you. You'll get performance tracking at the microscopic level. You'll be able to understand so much more about your understanding, about your comfort with any topic as you never understood before. You'll see corrective actions. So this product, we just want you all to get this, to see, experience this. Join the event, get your event pass today, and make sure you join this one. Okay, now we had also sent this poll across. When do you plan to take the GMAT? I have some responses here. If you haven't already responded to this, just put your responses here. For now, what I see, there are just two people who have the exam in the next 15 days. Then you have seven people in the 60 to 30-day bracket, five people in 31 to 45, then 46 to 75, and then beyond 75 is the majority. You can see it steadily increasing. Well, let me tell you one thing. No matter which stage of your preparation you're currently at, this session is for you. It is going to solidify your understanding in this topic, whether you have it at all or you're just looking to make it more strong, more you're looking for more comfort in this topic, something that I know intimidates people a lot. So with this, let's just get started. I will bring in the presentation here, and I'm bringing in a yes/no poll. Please just tell me the moment you can see the presentation. This might take a few seconds. It's usual for this to take a few seconds. You should be able to see the very first slide. Let me just get there, where it'll just say Algebra Quant Live Session. Let me bring in the poll as well. Tell me when you can see the PPT. Okay, so almost everybody can see it. I just see one person saying he cannot, so he or she cannot. Please try joining again once, maybe on the desktop app. And for any other queries, by the way, any other technical issues that you might face during the session, please write in the Q&A pod that you see right below the PPT. This section is for you to interact with our co-host for today, Atreya. So whatever doubts I will not be able to take as your presenter today, Atreya will answer those. So this will include all technical queries as well. On the right side of the PPT, you see the four options poll. Well, it could change according to the options in my option. This is where, in my question, this is where you're going to mark your answer to the questions that I show. And right below that is the short answer pod, which is where you and I talk. So when I ask a straight question to you, what do you think you did wrong here? Or what was the most difficult here? When I ask a question, this is where you respond to me. I hope I'm making myself clear. Let's keep this very, very neat. No questions about things that some confusion about a solution that will not come in the short answer pod. That will go only in the Q&A pod, with which Atreya will respond to. All right, with this, let's get started. This is an introduction. I am your presenter, Shweta, for today, and we are going to do algebra. Sorry about the name. We'll be solving inequality questions using a unified approach. So it's not going to be as if every question you will have to think all over again. Okay, what is happening? What do I do here? It's going to be one unified approach that will work throughout. Now, the purpose is to show you how to apply concepts in GMAT context. It's not just about knowing the ABC, it's about how the ABC works in the GMAT. How does a cat or a bat or a GMAT form? So, you have to learn concepts in the right concept, how to apply the concepts that you know. You learn the process of solving questions. It's not just about knowing the concepts, but how to apply is a huge part where most of the test takers are stuck. Now, key takeaways from the session, make sure you note them down and you apply those wherever and whenever you see another question of the same topic. So it's not just about, writing down the takeaways after the session is done. Every single question that we discuss, note down the takeaways. And the very next question that you see, apply it there. So it's a gradually progressing session. So if you keep learning from one question and apply that to the next, you're going to see the magic of this. You will be able to highlight possible gaps in your in your preparation right now, and this is the chance to fill in all those gaps and go in stronger for your GMAT. Now here is the progression. I'll just tell you how we're going to do this. The concepts covered are these: linear inequalities, quadratic inequalities, absolute value equations, and inequalities. So it's all about absolute values here in the second part. Now we will begin with a warm-up quiz, which is going to be 6 problem-solving questions. This is just to warm all of us up and prepare us for this session today. Here now, through these warm-up questions, you will have the chance to revise the concepts that might be rusted by now. Maybe it's been years since you've studied, or maybe it's just a revision that you're looking for. So this is what will set the stage for us. Then we learn to apply it in GMAT context with 5 problem solving and 3 data sufficiency questions. So in all, you have 14 questions, 14 great questions going in a very nice progression where you'll be able to see how from where you started and where you ended, there'll be a huge improvement. So all of us are going to begin with the warm up quiz first. Let me just bring in the yes no poll. Please tell me if you're very clear with the progression of the session. Let me just clear this, and yes. All right, great, thank you for your votes. Now let's start. Here is the warm-up section. As I said, this is going to be basic questions on algebra, nothing very high level or anything here. It's basic. Sorry about that, give me 1 second please. All right, so through these questions, you will get feedback about your current conceptual knowledge. You'll see, okay, this is something I had forgotten. This is something I didn't do the right way. You will see solutions, a way to just fill in whatever basic gaps you might have, but it won't be very detailed because these are basic questions. Now, just get ready with a pen and paper. I'm going to show you the very first question. Now, here's a small thing we're going to do throughout. I'll open the poll here, the options here, A, B, C, D, and still solving. When you mark still solving, it tells me you are ready for the question. And only then am I going to show you the question. Now, the number of people who mark still solving, I'll only count them as my active participants today. And according to the pace that they respond at, I will direct the session. I will keep the session paced according to these people who are ready for my questions, who say still solving. So right now I have 60 people who are ready. So then the moment 80% of these 60 people are ready, I'll be going. Well, we have 132 people here in the session. Let me show, let's just have more participation here, be more interactive, and only then will you really be able to gain the best out of it. All right, here I am showing the very first warm-up question to you. All the best, everybody. Here we go. All right, so I'm ending the poll now. Let's discuss this. What is the range of values of y if 4y plus 10 is greater than negative y? So this is an inequality where we just have one variable, just y. But before I continue, I saw some answers coming in the short answer pod. You only have to put your answers in the poll. Short answer pod is for us to talk when I direct a straight question at you. So well, I've kept it closed now. Let's see how to solve this. But before that, we will just do all warm-up questions. We will do three warm-up questions first, then we'll discuss their solutions, and then the next set. So here, just remember the majority went with option B here. 72% of you have marked option B, and which is the correct answer. So good job, everybody. The majority here is correct, but we still have 22% or how much is it? Yeah, 28% of you who got this wrong. We will discuss this. I'll reopen the poll. Mark still solving to tell me you're ready for the next question. All right, here you go. Good luck. This time you have two variables. I'll be ending the poll in another 10 seconds. Please mark your answers before that. All right, so we have answers here. Let me just show you how you people responded to this. So the majority went with option B. 57% of you marked B, and we had very few votes for A and D, almost negligible. The next biggest, the most popular choice was C, where you got 12% of you. Well, so B is a clear winner, and B is the correct answer. So the majority is correct, but 28% of you could not respond to this in time. Well, when I give you the final timer, no, when I say it's 10 more seconds or 15 more seconds, in that time, think of it as you doing the last question on the GMAT. You would not want to just miss it. You should mark your answer. Missing it and just letting it go, that is more heavily penalized than getting it wrong. So make sure you mark something once you get the timer. Now then, we are going to go to warm-up question number 3. Please mark still solving to show you're ready. Great participation this time. Here's question 3. Good luck. I'll be ending the poll in another 15 seconds. All right, the poll is now closed. Let me show you how you people responded to this. Just look at this. It's pretty varied. We have the majority with C, but a very small majority. Just 33% of you went with C, 20% with A, 23% with B, and still the smallest share went to D, which was 12%. Well, the correct answer is C, so the majority is still correct, but it's a very small majority. So here as a group, this is the one question I think till now that has already confused a lot of you. I'm not saying you don't know the concept, but definitely something here was different. When we come to the solution of this, I'll want to know exactly what went wrong. So everybody who marked A, B, D, and people who could not mark the solution, I'll want to understand what exactly was the most complicated here. And we'll talk about it in the short answer pod. With this now, it's time to discuss these first three questions first. Let's start with the first one. Here, as I told you, the accuracy was 72%. So a lot of you had gotten this correct. Let's discuss this. We don't have to spend too much of time on this because of the high accuracy. So 4y plus 10 is greater than negative y, and you want to find out the range of values of y. So what you do in such cases is you get all the y's in one place. So it's like all the variable everywhere, wherever you see it in the inequality or the equation also, you get it all on one side. How are you going to get it on one side? You already have 4y here and minus y here. So to take minus y to the left hand side, you can just move it to the left side and change its sign. So here it's a minus, here it'll become a plus. This is one way of thinking about it. Another way of thinking about it is that you're adding y on both sides. So if you add y on both sides, the left side shall become 5y plus 10 and the right side will become minus y plus y, which is 0. So this way all your y is collected on one side. Then now, because I just want y, I don't want anything else over here. So I want to remove this 10. So as I said, using the second approach, let's talk about it that way, I'll subtract 10 from both sides. So if I subtract 10 from both sides, it'll just vanish from the left hand side. And on the right hand side, it'll be 0 minus 10, which is minus 10. You see, nothing is changing the sign of the inequality that I have. It is staying that greater than thing, even here. And finally, when I have to remove the 5, I have to divide it on both sides. So when I divide the left side by 5, 5y over 5, it's going to be y. And on the right side, it's going to be minus 2. Yet again, notice the sign stayed the same. So you would say this worked exactly how an equation works. Just the same. So are inequalities and equations any different at all? Well, we'll see that. Nothing different we found in this particular question though. With this now, let's move to question number 2. So in number 2, what we have are two inequalities instead of one and two variables also, x and y. But the question is to find the range of values of y. So yes, I have two, but my question wants me to find out the values of one of them. So I don't want the x. I don't want it. So here is a method that I'm going to tell you about how to eliminate a variable from your system of inequalities. It's a system. It's not just one inequality, it's a system. How you eliminate it is you will first of all need to have two inequalities with the same sign. So if this is a greater than inequality, this is also a greater than inequality. You need that. Why then? You'll see that. Next thing you want is the variable that you want to eliminate, which is the x here, should have the same coefficient in both inequalities, but with opposite signs. So here x has a coefficient of 1, here it has minus 2. Well, it's not even the same numerical value, forget about the sign. So if this is minus 2, I want this one to be a plus 2. That is what I want. How will I make the coefficient 2? I can multiply the entire equation by 2. So if I multiply the entire inequality by 2, left side will become 2x minus 2y, right side will become minus 6, and the greater than sign in between stays the same. And this other inequality, I don't touch it because I anyway wanted the coefficients to have the same numbers with opposite signs, and I have that. Now write them one below the other like this. You see them perfectly written like this. Now you will add these two inequalities. I can only add them because they have the same signs. I said I'll tell you why that is important. Read this point here. Inequalities with the same sign can be added together. You cannot add them if they don't have the same signs. Now that they have the same signs and I have this coefficient thing going on, if I add them, think about it. 2x and minus 2x will just become 0x. So that is just 0. So the x vanishes. This is why I wanted the same coefficients. If I had just added the original two inequalities, well then x and minus 2x added would give me minus x. It would not get eliminated. But this way, when it got eliminated, I only have the y, which is minus 2y plus 3y, that will be a plus y, greater than minus 6 plus 4, which is minus 2. I hope everybody is absolutely clear with this. I'm just quickly bringing in the yes-no poll. Tell me you understood both these questions by marking a yes. Wonderful. I love that result here. Anybody who's at all confused, the recording of the session will make it very clear. But right now we have 100% people saying yes. That makes me very happy. Let's now go to discussing the third solution, warm-up question number 3, which is where the accuracy is the lowest and I see the maximum amount of confusion. Such mixed responses you people gave. Let's see. It's really not very different from question number 2. You still have two inequalities, you still have two variables. How did it suddenly become so different? Well, because it just didn't want you to give an inequality or the range of values. It had more things here. Non-negative integral values. This, I think, is the only difference here. You must believe me when I say that, and you must realize the same after we've just discussed warm-up question 2. Well, here I want m, right? So same drill, I want to eliminate n. This time, I'm so lucky that n already has the same coefficient in opposite signs. I don't even have to do that additional step of making the coefficients equal. So here they are in the same sign, both greater than. I can freely just add them, write them one below the other. The minus n and n will cancel out because they'll become 0. And overall, you have minus 4m plus 10 greater than 0. And then the plus 10, when it goes to the right hand side, will become minus 4m greater than minus 10. Now, after this stage is the very first place where you see the difference between inequalities and equations. Now, if you just divided both sides by minus 1 here to give 4m greater than 10, then mark a yes here. Let's have more votes. Everybody who did that or did not do that, put in your responses. We want to exactly pinpoint what the group faltered at. Well, from the results that we see, I hope I'm broadcasting the results. Yes, from the results we all see 85% of you did not do this, but 15% of you did this. So 15% is not a very small number. So it's a nice concept you're getting right now. You cannot multiply or divide both sides of an inequality without affecting the sign of the inequality. When you were doing all of those operations till now, adding something on both sides or multiplying or subtracting or dividing, all of those numbers in multiplication and division were positive. It doesn't matter in addition subtraction whether it's positive or negative, but when you're multiplying or dividing by a negative number, the inequality will flip. It'll not stay the same, it'll become the opposite of what it was. So instead of greater than minus 10, it should become less than minus 10. I'm sorry, 10, because you're removing the minus. So 4m is less than 10. And then it's easy. You just divide both sides by 4. So m is less than 10 by 4, which is 2.5. Now, m less than 2.5 is the stage where you left question 2. You just wanted the inequality. But here you have more going on. You want non-negative integral values. So non-negative, first of all, means what? How many of you, let me just reopen this poll, how many of you think non-negative means positive? Wonderful. We have identified conceptual error, conceptual gap number 2. Non-negative does not mean positive. 29% of you said that they think it's that. Non-negative just means not negative. Something which is not negative. It can be positive. It can be zero as well. Zero is not a negative number. It's neither positive nor negative. So when we say non-negative, we do include zero. And also integral values, it means we are talking about integers. So the integers here in this range are 0, 1, and 2. So all those of you who missed the 0 must have marked B. So 23% of you marked B. That is probably what happened. And those of you who marked A, which was 1, I want to understand what exactly you missed. And all of those who found D. So here I'm opening the chat pod, the short answer pod. This is where you tell me where you faltered. Just be very vocal about what happened in this question. Where did you falter? We already identified 2 faltering points. If there are more, let me know. Okay, so a lot of you say the non-negative thing, the 0 thing. A lot of you said that. Okay. Did not cancel out n. Well, see, you wanted to find m, right? So you don't want the other one. It was exactly along the lines of the previous one. I did not reach to that point, just selected A. Okay, so see, you have to take the learnings from the previous question to the next one. You have to. When you see from the previous one that you did eliminate one variable to get the other one, you have to use that in the next one. That is what growth is all about. Learn from your mistakes and apply them. And yes, what else is the reason here? Would 0 be considered non-positive? Absolutely. It's neither positive nor negative. I chose one that was the result of the operation. Not sure that means. Can you please explain the sign change concept? Well, it's very simple. Whenever you multiply both sides or divide both sides by a negative number, the sign will change. So here what's happening is you're dividing both sides by -1, or you can also say you're multiplying both sides by -1. That is why left side became 4m, right side became 10, and the sign flipped in between. It became less than instead of greater than. All right, so most of us missed the non-negative part, got thrown off by non-negative integer, took solution to be 10 by 4 and chose A. Okay, 10 by 4 and chose A. 10 by 4 is not an integer, so you also missed the integral part then. Well, okay, so we can clearly see a lot of us had a lot of stuff missing. I just hope we feel more confident now in going to the next set of questions. Integral value means whole number. No, integral value means integers. They can also be negative, -1, -2, -3. In what all scenarios does the sign change? Sign only changes when you multiply or divide both sides by a negative number. All right, let's get started now. I'm going to show you the next set of questions. Let me just reopen the poll here. So this is going to be warm-up question number 4. Again, you're going to solve 2 questions this time, 4 and 5, and then we're going to discuss the solutions of both of them together. So mark still solving to tell me you're ready, and mark this with more confidence this time. You have a lot more than you had in the beginning. All right, here is warm-up question number Ending the poll in 10 seconds. All right, here we go. So the results you see, we have a good majority this time, 67% of you going with option C, which is correct. So good. The next most popular choice was A with 14% votes. That's again a big number here, considering we have 155 people watching this, and 7% with D. Okay, so yes, 67 being the majority, we still have a 33% of you who are confused with this. So we do have something to discuss in this. Let's just remember this accuracy and we will go to warm up question number 5 now. I'll clear the poll and you will just mark still solving. All right, here's question 5. Good luck. Ending the poll in 10 seconds. All right, so here we have the results. The majority, 54% this time, went with C, but we still have scattered responses for the other options. A, B, D, D being the next most popular choice. So this one has more confusion than warm-up question number 4. But both of them are based on the same principles. That's why it makes sense to discuss them together. Let's just start talking about them one by one. So here is the solution for warm-up question 4. Pay very close attention to this. What is the range of x for the inequality this? So this now is a quadratic inequality. If you multiply these two in, you will get x to the power 2. So that shows it's quadratic. Now the range of x for a quadratic inequality. All the inequalities that you solved in the first three questions, they were linear. So the power was just 1. How is this one different and how should we approach this? Well, think about this. It's a product of two numbers after all. Whatever they are, however it looks right now, looks like x minus 2, x minus 3, more confusing than simple numbers, but it is two numbers. When do you think the product of two numbers is going to be positive, which is what you want? There are only two possibilities. Either both numbers are positive or both numbers are negative, right? There's nothing else that can happen. If both of them are positive, then x minus 2 is positive as well as x minus 3 is that's also positive. Now when you solve each of them from x minus 2 greater than 0, you get x greater than 2. And from the second one, you get x greater than 3. So what's happening is it's really saying this and this are positive, which means x is greater than 2 and it's greater than 3. Do you even need to say both things? If something is greater than 2 and 3, then you can just say it's greater than 3, right? The 2 is automatically covered. So you can combine both the inequalities to get this. Same story here when both are negative. It means x minus 2 and x minus 3 are both negative. So you solve each of them, putting them less than 0, and you get x less than 2 and x less than 3. Yet again, it's an and. So x is a number which is less than 2 and 3. You don't need to say both things. You can just say it's less than 2. Then it'll automatically be less than 3 as well. So overall, the answer that you get is it was either case 1 or case 2. So the solution is either x is greater than 3 or it is less than 2. So basically you don't want all of those values between 2 and 3 inclusive. You want it to be either more than 3 or less than 2. So the option that covers that is option C. Tell me if everybody understood this in the yes no poll. Wonderful. That's great. Let's go on and see warm up question number 5 now, the solution for that. Here you go. Oh, hey, hold on. There's one more method I want to give you before we go to 5. Another method for warm up question 4, and then I'll give you the choice to, select any one of the methods for you. Once you learn the second method, I'm pretty sure you're going to lean towards this for higher powers. For quadratics, the positive negative thing also works well, but that's still your choice. What you have to do in this second method, which we call the wavy line method, is this. You first of all see these factors, x minus 2 and x minus 3, and you see where are they equal to 0. Where is the value? 0. Now, x minus 2 is 0 at x equal to 2, and x minus 3 is 0 at x equal to 3. So you put both of them on a number line. You just mark 2 and 3. What happens because of that is your number line gets divided into 3 regions. This before 2 on the left of 2, this thing between 2 and 3, and this thing on the right side of 3. Then in each of these, you want to know what is exactly the sign of this expression of the product. Well, you don't have to do anything. It's always going to be positive in the extreme right region. So the rightmost region is always going to have it positive. Reason being that all the x's here are greater than 2 and 3 both. So if it's x minus 2 and x minus 3, put any x, say 10. Then 10 minus 2 is 8 and 10 minus 3 is 7. 8 and 7 are both positive numbers, so the result has to be positive. So it starts from the topmost, from above the number line. That means it is positive on the rightmost interval. Now, whenever it is positive, you make a wave above the number line. So it is above 3 here. Then the wavy line always alternates from above to below, from above to below, below to above. That's how it works as it passes through any 0 point. You call a 0 point to be these 2 and 3 where your factors were 0. So it was above the number line here. The moment it crosses 3, it'll go below the number line. And then when it crosses 2 again, it'll go back above the number line. So it's going to alternate like that. Now, whenever you're above the number line, you're positive. Whenever you're below the number line, you're negative. You want this product to be positive. Where do you see it positive? Wherever it is above the number line. So it's either here, less than 2, or it's here, more than 3, which is exactly the answer that we have in option C. Now, this might look confusing when you see it the first time, but as you apply it more and more, you will get super fast with this. All you need to understand is that the wave has to alternate. It has to go from positive to negative, negative to positive as it crosses a 0 point. Now, there are exceptions to this that you will learn about later. For now, this is the rule you're following. With this now, let's go to warm up question 5. Now here, instead of the multiplication, you have a division. So we're just going to do a very simple thing, a sweet little thing that will convert this division into multiplication. Think about it. If I just multiply both sides by x plus 4, can I just say, okay, then it's going to be x minus 3 less than 0? I cannot. You know why? We learned a concept that if you multiply a negative number on both sides, the inequality will flip. Now, how do you even know what the sign of x plus 4 is? If x plus 4 is a positive number, then if you multiply it on both sides, all right, x plus 3, x minus 3 is going to be less than 0. But if x plus 4 is a negative number, when you will multiply it on both sides, you will get x minus 3 greater than 0. The sign will flip. So I'm not sure how it will work. That is why I'm not going to multiply both sides by x plus 4. A quick fix for that is you multiply both sides by the square of the denominator, because the square has to be positive. In general, the square can also be 0, but because here it is the denominator, it cannot be 0. Otherwise, the expression itself would be not defined. So if I multiply them by x plus 4 squared, it's going to be x minus 3 times x plus 4 on the left, and on the right side it's just going to stay 0. Anything multiplied by 0 is 0, and the inequality does not change because you multiplied by a positive number, right? Now you have something that you had in question number 4, exactly the same story. Let me explain this using the wavy line method only. So what are your 0 points where your factors are 0? So it's minus 4 and 3. Mark them on the number line. Your number line gets divided into 3 regions. When you go to the rightmost region, it's positive. So you start it from above the number line, and then you keep alternating it from above to below, below to above. Now, finally, what you want is this, right? You want it to be less than 0. Where is it negative? It's negative in the interval between minus 4 and 3. You will not include minus 4 and 3 because it's going to be 0 there. So it's just everything between minus 4 and 3, which is option C. I hope you're all clear with this. This will get better with more and more practice, of course, but I am reopening this yes no poll here. Please tell me if you understand this. All right, so more than 75% of us are comfortable with this now. I understand it can feel difficult when you see it for the first time. So it's okay, you don't have to be too hard on yourself. This will get better with practice, and when you see the recording, you will get that final level of clarity. As for any questions that you might have at any step, of course, you can use the Q&A pod to ask your questions. Now I'm going to go to warm up question number 6. Yet again, you just have to mark still solving to tell me you're ready. Here you go. Good luck. All right, let's see how you guys voted for this one. There you go. So the majority went with option C, which is correct. So good job. 63% of you got this correct. Let's discuss this right now to get the other 37% on the same page. Let's see what happened here. All right, so this time it was an absolute value inequality, different from what we had done till now. We saw no absolute values till now. So we're gradually adding more and more concepts. And then when we go to GMAT style application, you will have to use all of these concepts together. So you have x plus 3, the absolute value of that, or the mod of that, which is less than equal to 5, and you want to find out x. So think about this. First method is to just replace the x plus 3 by a single variable. So you just take x plus 3 as z. So what happens here is you get absolute value of z less than equal to 5. Remember, we've taken x plus 3 equal to z. Now, which numbers are these whose absolute values are between 5, less than or equal to 5? If it is less than or equal to 5, your z has to be in this range. It has to be between minus 5 and 5 inclusive, because you are allowed to have the 5. Now, since z is equal to x plus 3, you just put x plus 3 back into this now that you've opened the absolute value. So this is what you get. Finally, you have to get only x. You don't want the plus 3. So this works exactly how any inequality works. Although you have it on both sides, which is what you call a sandwich inequality, still works the same way. You have to subtract 3 on all sides. So on the left side, it's going to become minus 8. In the middle, it's going to become x. And on the right side, it'll be 5 minus 3, which is 2. This is it. Your answer is C. Now, another approach for this, which is going to be faster, will be based on some observation that we make here. Just see, when I had the absolute value of z as less than equal to 5, the range I got was this. It's all of those values between minus 5 and 5. So here it's shaded on the number line. Minus 5 and 5 really are centered around 0. So it's 5 units to the right and 5 units to the left from 0. All of these numbers are allowed values of z. When you look at what you got in the end, minus 8 to 2, this time you see minus 8 and 2 will have minus 3 as a midpoint. What's a midpoint? It's just the average of the two numbers. So minus 8 plus 2 by 2, you'll get minus 3. This time, from minus 3, 5 units to the right will give you 2, and from minus 3, 5 units to the left will give you minus 8. So if only somebody told me what that middle point is, I just have to go this number, this 5, to the right and to the left. What is the connection? How is it all related to minus 3? Just observe it here. So x plus 3 we had, but the distance, the midpoint was minus 3. This is always going to happen. It's always going to be the opposite sign of what you have inside. If it's a plus, then the midpoint will be minus 3. If it's a minus 3 already inside, then the midpoint will be 3. And now from this minus 3, you will go this number to the right and to the left. So 5 to the right is minus 3 plus 5, 2, and minus 3 minus 5 is then minus 8. Why this is working is because absolute values are closely connected with distance. You can read this whole thing in terms of distance. Distance is this distance that you're talking about between these two numbers. This distance is less than or equal to 5 from where? From minus 3. I said it's always going to be the opposite sign. So if it is 3, you'll say the distance is from minus 3. Had it been x minus 3, you would say the distance from 3 is less than or equal to 5. So if the distance from minus 3 is less than or equal to 5, of course you start at minus 3. And then since my distance has to be less than equal to 5, distance can be seen to the right side also, and distance can be seen on the left side also. I'm just saying how far you are. I'm not saying which direction you're in. This way you can use the distance approach and get your answer much, much faster. Now with this, we are done with the warm-up section. You should have 200% clarity in all the concepts that we covered here: absolute values, linear inequalities, quadratic inequalities, systems of linear inequalities, how to eliminate them, how to add them, and what about the wavy line method and everything. The clarity in the concepts has to be phenomenal. If you scored less than 100%, that means even if you got one question wrong, revise the recommended concepts from the course. Remember the videos I talked about that we had sent you? Those are the ones. You need to revise this. Because when it comes to GMAT questions, the level is higher than this. It requires a much advanced level application of what we saw till now. So you have to be absolutely clear till here. Now, with this, I am just going to open the short answer pod. Tell me how you feel after this warm up section. What are your biggest learning points till now? Things that you didn't know earlier. Biggest takeaways till this stage in the session. Using the wavy line method. Same sign inequalities can be added. Yes. Absolute value hack. Never really understood the concept before. Wow. Somebody's used this for revision. Wonderful. Remembering that 0 is an integer. Yeah. The curve method, same sign inequalities. Okay. Revision, wavy line, mod question. Great. Okay, so a lot of us are gaining a lot. Somebody thinks we're going a little slow. Think about it. This session is paced according to how you respond to solutions. The faster I get 80% of you answering this, the faster I start discussing. This has to benefit everybody together. Now, here is a snapshot from how the course looks on our platform. This is inequalities and absolute values. This is the basics. These are practice quizzes. This is how it's structured, every single concept. You have a diagnostic quiz to start with. You have basic quizzes. You have a lot of practice quizzes to support your understanding. Now, all of this is packaged into this session for you, just to give you a nice sneak peek of it. We are now going to go into GMAT style questions, 600 to 700 level questions these are going to be. And I will show you one question and we'll discuss one solution this time. It's not going to be a set of questions anymore. So let me just change the poll because now we're going to have GMAT style questions. We have to have 5 options. So I'll just bring in a new poll. One second. All right, here we go. This is a 5 answer poll, but the drill stays the same. You mark still solving to show you're ready, and then I show you the question. Let's get started. All right, here's question one. Good luck. Ending the poll in 10 seconds. Okay, so here are the results. We have the greatest majority going with option C, 75% of you, which is good, and C is the correct answer. Good. So let's discuss this solution. We have this inequality. It's pretty simple. This question is very simple. Just that you had x's also on both sides and numbers also on both sides. But you know the trick. You have to get all the variable on one side and the number on one side. So from 16x and 48x, if I want to get the 48x on the left side, I'll just subtract it on both sides. This is what will happen. At the same time, I'll subtract 32 from both sides so that it goes away from the left side to the right. What I'll have as a result is minus 32x greater than 64. And now remember the concept, when you divide both sides by a negative number, the inequality will flip. So it'll become 32x less than minus 64. And then just divide by 32, which is a positive number. So this time nothing is going to change. X is less than minus 2. And that's it. So if x is less than minus 2, the only option is C. Now, if you marked D, you just made a silly mistake. You just forgot the minus 2 and took a plus 2 here. And A and B, if you marked, then you marked the wrong side of it, which means you did not, you forgot the concept about the flipping. 32x less than minus 64. Instead of that, if you just have 32x greater than minus 64, then you would have x greater than minus 2, which is when you can go for A and B, which are wrong. So, but very few people did that. So I'm very glad with how you responded to this. So I'm reopening the poll, mark still solving, to show me you're ready for question number 2. Great speed. Here's number 2. Good luck. Ending the poll in 10 seconds. All right, so I've ended the poll, and here are your results. So 47% went with A, so the majority went with A. This time, the majority is wrong. The answer is not A. I will not tell you what the answer is. Let's just discuss this, and then we'll see how everybody voted. What is the minimum value of x? If 16x plus 32 greater than this is and. So you have two inequalities, both of them in x this time. The first inequality is identical to what you had in question 1. So you didn't really have to solve that again. It was everything less than minus 2. All you had to do was solve the second one, which is 17 plus 3x greater than equal to x plus 6. Yet again, you want all of the variable on one side and numbers on the other. So what you do here is you first subtract x on both sides. So on the left side, it'll become 2x, and on the right side, it'll vanish. Similarly then, subtract 17 on both sides. So the number goes to the right. So you will have 6 minus 17, which is how much? Minus 11 on the right. So you would have 2x greater than equal to minus 11. Divide by 2 and you'll get this. X greater than equal to minus 5.5. Now, since it's a system of inequalities, it's an and between them, which means both of these have to be true. X has to be less than 2 and it has to be greater than or equal to minus 5.5. So this is the inequality. Now you see the greater than equal to minus 5.5 and that's why you just marked what's the minimum value of A. But did you read the question carefully? It said minimum value of the integer x. The question had a constraint in it. Before just marking your answer, you have to make sure that you're considering all the constraints that the problem has. Just think about it, 47% of you making this mistake. It's not small. The people who marked B, 26% only, you've got this right. Because the minimum integer after minus 5.5 is minus 5, and that is why we have this answer. Now, for those who marked D, E, these are really just silly mistakes. Because you wanted the minimum value, you went for the maximum. You marked minus 3 because it's maximum, and minus 2 would anyway be wrong because it has to be strictly less than minus 2. Including it is not allowed. So 7% each went for D and E, went for just this little miss because it said minimum, you did maximum. One word can get a question wrong. Missing integer, missing minimum, taking maximum, one single word. The question was not difficult here if you had taken the learning from the previous question and had applied the constraints here. So here's a big learning for you. Read carefully before marking, make sure you're not missing any constraints. So take away constraints. With this now, we're ready for question number 3. You'll mark still solving to say you're ready, and then I'll show you the question. Here you go. Ending the poll in 10 seconds. All right, so here are the results. We had almost a tie between A and D, but by a very small margin. D was the choice of the majority. And since we have such divided votes, we will not discuss this yet. Anyway, my plan is to make you do question 4 first, and then we'll discuss them together. Even B and C have a tie. B, C, and E. All of them are very, very close. So there is some confusion here. Let's see. Let's see what's wrong here. But again, you have to tell me you're ready for the next one. First, we'll discuss both of them together. All right, here you go. Ending the poll in 10 seconds. All right, so here are the results. It's again very scattered. C has a majority, but with a very small margin over D. And C is correct, but this is when it shows again confusion. So this is the first time you're seeing questions where there are squares within an inequality. So it's Z squared. That was the only difference really that we had in both of these. So let's discuss these one by one, and hopefully all your confusion will go after we are done discussing. So starting with question number 3 first, you had this product of two numbers which is less than 0. You know that one approach we discussed in quadratic inequalities, where you again had two factors, we said that when is the product of two numbers going to be positive? It was either when both positive or both negative. Here you want the product to be negative, which will happen when one number is negative and one is positive. Now think about it. Z squared, no matter what the value of Z is in the world, Z squared is always going to be non-negative. That means it's either positive or 0. So when I add a 4 to it, isn't it obviously going to be positive? So Z squared plus 4 is obviously positive, which means the only way that this entire expression is going to be negative is if this second factor, Z squared minus 2, is negative. Now, if Z squared minus 2 is negative, it means Z squared is less than 2. Now, Z squared is less than 2. Really less than 2, I can see here, here, here. I can see it in all four of these options. Remember, my question is about Z squared only. I don't need to change this into a Z. So the right hand side had to have a 2. But what's the left side? If you marked C, and as I see from the results, B and C and E, very few people marked that. The closest relative to D was A. So how would you mark A? Let's understand that. You probably solved it with both the factors. You missed the fact that this one here is obviously positive. You actually considered both the cases, one positive, one negative, and that is how you're going to have this one. But here, since it's obviously positive, you only have this one case to consider. Now, because it's greater than equal to 0, you have this limit on the left side. If you don't put a limit, that is, if you just go for C, then that means you're even thinking Z squared can be negative, which is impossible. So this is what happened here in this question. So for all those of you, the 34% people who marked A, tell me if this is exactly what happened in the short answer pod. Did you take both cases? One positive, one negative. Yeah, so that is what happened. Good, we found another faltering point. And it's good. The more faltering points you find, the more you understand yourself more. So you're giving yourself the chance to never make those mistakes again. Now, with this, then even all of those mistakes that happened in question 4 would go. Maybe the same kind of mistake happened there because the expression in that question is also very similar. Let's see. So you still have the same thing, z squared plus 4, z squared minus 2 less than 0. It's the same inequality. But instead of finding the range of z squared, we're saying how many values are there. So this was the final inequality. How many values is it? Z squared can be 0, z squared can be 1. That's it. These are the only two integers in this range. Now, why are we looking for integers? Because if z is an integer, then so is z squared. So z squared had to be an integer, and the only integers in this range are 0 and 1. So it's two of them here. Now, we see a lot of people going for, please give me 1 second. Yes, thank you. So C is 2, and all of those people who marked D, who said it's 3, you probably also counted 2. But it's not possible, right? It cannot be 2 because it's less than 2. You have it in the inequality here, it's less than 2. So tell me exactly what went wrong. Tell me in the chat pod. What about questions 3 and 4? With this, we've ended the first set of questions, which is the problem solving questions. Let me just show you this. So we did 4 questions. We saw a lot of things here going on and inequalities, especially z squared. This last one trumped a lot of you. Considered minus 1 as well. Why would you consider minus 1? Because it is 0 less than equal to z squared. How can z squared be negative? Solved for positive integral values of z. Okay, yeah, you went one step further from here. You thought that if z squared is 1, then z could be 1 or minus 1. We didn't have to do that. We're not finding z. If we were finding z, then minus 1 would also be there. You are looking for only z squared. So many of you are saying minus 1. Why not minus 1? Why not minus 1? Read the question. See what they're asking. They're asking z squared, not z. How would you blame yourself on this? You just completely went careless. You didn't read what they wanted. You just solved for what you thought would be asked. Z is not mentioned as integer. It can be an imaginary number. GMAT does not consider imaginary numbers. It's only real numbers for the GMAT. All right. So good. Then that's one more thing you got. Okay. Square of a number will always be positive. No, it can also be 0. Square of a number can also be 0 if it's the square of 0. All right, great. Then most of you were asking questions here about the minus 1 thing. But I hope everybody is clear now. Tell me your biggest takeaways from this set of 5 questions now. 4 questions, I'm sorry. We're still going to see one more. Read the question properly. Square concept. So many of you, good that you're realizing that you have to read the question before just answering. Wonderful. Focus, focus, focus. Okay, good. Then with this takeaway, promise me you're going to be more careful from next question onwards. So now it's going to be a 700 level question. It's one question, question number 5. I'll just clear the poll. Mark still solving to show me you're ready for some challenge now. All right, good luck. Ending the poll in 10 seconds. All right, so here we go. The most popular option here is E. 40% of you went with E, and E is the correct answer. So good, the majority is correct, but it's a small majority this time. 60% of us did not get the correct answer. So let's discuss question 5 properly. Let's find out why exactly so many people faltered at this one. So x and y are positive integers. Here is constraint number one. These are the things we tend to forget towards the end. So remember this, it's integers and positive as well, such that you have these two inequalities about x and y. what is the positive difference between the minimum possible value of x and the minimum possible value of y. So both of their minimum values I want, and then I want to find out their difference. So it's kind of a two-step process. I need to know information about x, then about y, and then the difference. So that's three steps really. Let's see. So here I pick up my inequalities. These are the two inequalities here. Just focus, they do not have the same sign. This is greater and this is less. I cannot add them. What do you know? You know that you can only add two inequalities if they have the same signs. So how do I make the same signs? Well, I've learned something. The only way to flip signs is to multiply or divide both sides by a negative number. So what I'll do here is I will just multiply both of both sides of this second inequality by -1. So as a result, I'll have minus 3x plus 30 greater than equal to y, and then they will have the same signs. Both of them will become greater. I'm just writing them in this way so that I just have a 0 on the right side. It's not really essential. So x plus 2y minus 20 greater than 0 is the first one, and minus 3x plus 30 minus y greater than 0 is the second one. Now I want to find x, I want to find y, but I can only find one of them at a time, right? I can't find both of them. So I have to use the approach, the technique I learned in questions that we did in the beginning, how you eliminate one of the variables. So let's just try to eliminate one of them. Which one does it seem easier to eliminate? Well, it's really the same thing. Let's try to eliminate x first. So since I have minus 3x here and plus x here, I'll just multiply the entire first inequality by 3 so that it becomes 3x. And then it'll have 3x plus 6y minus 60 greater than 0. Now this one with this second one, when I add them, the x's just vanish and you are just left with 6y plus minus y, which is 5y, and minus 60 plus 30, which is minus 30. So 5y minus 30 is greater than 0, which means divide all of it by 5. Y minus 6 is greater than 0. That means y is greater than 6. This way, you already have your solution for one of the variables, right? One of the variables is done. You have information about y. Now x, how? So you again have to use what you have and this time try to eliminate y. Now you don't need to start from the very beginning from these two inequalities. You can use this simplified form in one of the original inequalities. So since this is a plus y, I can use this inequality where I have minus y. So I will not need to do anything to the coefficients. I'm just free to add them. The y's will get cancelled. So I'll have minus 3y plus 30 greater than 6 from here. So minus 3y plus 24 is greater than 0, minus x is greater than minus 8, and x is less than 8 because you divided both sides by minus 8. No, why does it say y greater than 8? It says y greater than 6. It's not 8. Oh, here, yes, please, please don't do that. Don't go ahead. That might break my flow. Also, all questions in the Q&A pod, this is only for us to talk. All right, so here you have inequalities for both of them, y greater than 6 and x less than 8. Now you wanted the minimum possible value for each of them. Think about it, x and y are positive integers. So if x is less than 8, what is the minimum integer it can be? It can be 1 because it's a positive integer. And y is greater than 6. So what's the minimum integer that it can be? It has to be a 7. Now that you have both of them, you want the positive difference between them. Positive difference is always the bigger number minus the smaller number. Okay, so bigger minus smaller is what? It's 7 minus 1. Yeah, so 6 is the answer. That's it. I hope you people have understood this. I'm opening the yes no poll. Tell me if you're comfortable with this. Considering that the accuracy was just 41%, I want to have a better accuracy, a better percentage here in the yeses. Wonderful. You might have realized by now the questions get tricky not because they start using new concepts. It's just because they use the same concepts in more interesting ways where you have to think a little more. Just work just a little more, once, twice. Here, instead of having just an X or just a Y, I wanted both. That was one level of detail that I added to this question, which made it harder, which made it the 700 level that it is. But not because the concepts have become difficult. This should give you a lot of confidence. Nothing will start testing things you don't know at all. You've learned a concept, the same concept will be tested. It just gets more detailed. There's just more that will be there to do in it, but the same of the same thing. All right, I am going to bring in question number 6. You know the drill. Still solving. Okay, here you go. It's a data sufficiency question. Good luck. Ending the poll in 10 seconds. All right, here you go. Just see how scattered the results are. We have a lot of confusion here, probably. C and E are almost at the same level, B and D almost at the same level, A is just at a small lead. So we need to discuss this in detail. All right, let me show you. Z is an integer such that the absolute value of Z is less than 6. Is it positive? That's the question. So in the question stem itself, you have some information that the absolute value of Z is less than 6, and then you have to think about the statements. So what you do in any data sufficiency question is you first work with the question stem. So it told you two things. It told you that it's an integer and that absolute value of Z is less than 6. Now, what does it mean for mod of Z to be less than 6? It means that it's between minus 6 and 6. This time, of course, it's not including these endpoints. You can't include minus 6 and 6. So what are all the possible values that Z can take being an integer? It's 11 of these values from minus 5 to 5 inclusive. Now my question is Z positive? Right now, I cannot tell, right? Because right now I have negative numbers also, minus 5, minus 4, and I have positives also. So obviously the question stem itself is not going to be sufficient. That's how a data sufficiency question works. When I work with the first statement, which told me that the absolute value of Z minus 2 is greater than 3, we have solved this an inequality like this before. You know how it works in terms of the distance, or you can also substitute it. If I show you the substitution method, all you have to do is take a single variable for z minus 2. So suppose z minus 2 is equal to t, so it's mod of t greater than 3. So what all can t be if its absolute value is more than 3? Either it has to be more than 3 itself, or it has to be less than minus 3. So this is what I get for t. Now since t is actually z minus 2, I just put it back. So it becomes z minus 2 is either greater than 3, or from this side you get z minus 2 is less than minus 3. You solve both of them. This side you get z greater than 5, and here you get z less than minus 1. Now, if it is less than minus 1, really just think about it. What is the range you had from the question stem? You had that it's strictly less than 6, right? And it's strictly more than minus 6. So when I see this case that it says it's greater than 5, how can it happen? Greater than 5, the integers are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but I know I can't go there because of the information that I have from the question stem. I know that this case on the left will be rejected. The only case I have is this, that it is less than minus 1. So using this with the question stem, it can be anything from minus 6 to minus 1, excluding all of them. So since it's just this case, it means it's a negative number. My question was what, remember, is z positive? And now I can surely say, no, it's not positive because it's negative. You just have to have a sure answer, either a sure yes or a sure no. Don't be looking for just yeses to call something sufficient. Sufficient just means that you can answer for sure. So from statement 1, you can answer this. So all of those people who marked B, C, E, all of you thought that statement 1 was not sufficient. If I quickly do the math, B and C is 39, and 39 plus 30 would be 69. So 66% of you did this wrong. This one statement, statement 1, wrong. Tell me in the short answer pod, what is it that you missed here? Forgot to do the minus 6. You have to take the question stem along with you in the analysis. Yeah, did not consider the stem. So many of you did that. Again, it's a point, it's another point you have, that you have to take the question stem. Skipped z greater than 5. Yeah, that could just be eliminated. You forgot to eliminate that. That only negative works. Yes. Question stem, question stem. Most of us have the question stem thing. Did not use this method. Well, not using this method is not why you would falter. You have to use the right concept, incorrect way of representation. This is, of course, the most efficient method, but that is not why you get something wrong. So, okay, most of us did the same mistake of not considering the question stem. It's a good learning for you. There are more data sufficiency questions coming, so remember that there. Statement 2 now. Absolute value of z is equal to 2. Well, this just means z is plus 2 or minus 2. So it can be positive, negative, both. It's not sufficient. Tell me, all of those people now, this is only directed to those who marked B and D. All of you thought that the second statement was correct, 17% of you. How did you think this was sufficient? How was it giving you a sure answer? And this basically means the answer is A, because only the first statement is sufficient. Here is the original question. How did you think second statement was sufficient? Come on. Did not consider, confirm, yes or no? I'm sorry, I didn't get that. You thought yes or no works? How would it be sufficient then? Sufficient just means that you can answer a question for sure. There should not be a maybe to it. Yeah, maybe it's positive, maybe it's negative. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking for sure short answers. I cannot repeat this again. I'm sorry. You will have to watch the video. If there are any questions, any small confusions here, you can write it in the Q&A pod, and our co-host Ashutosh, who's supporting the session now, he'll answer you. Please post that in the Q&A pod. How did you eliminate 5? I eliminated z greater than 5. It cannot be greater than 5 because you already know it's between minus 5 and 5 inclusive. How can it be greater than 5? Use the question stem. All right. Okay. You guys are not answering what I'm exactly asking. You're trying to just clarify more and more doubts. Please do that in the Q&A pod. Keep the question on this short answer pod for our interaction. I want to understand exactly why people would think statement 2 is sufficient. Okay, anyway, let's move on. So I'm going to show you question number 7 now. Please mark still solving to show me you're ready for that. Here you go. Good luck. Ending the poll in 10 seconds. Okay, so here are the results. I've just showed you how you people voted. A is the majority, yes. B and D almost at a tie. C is with the least votes, and E. It's still a very confused vote. So we were not very sure with how this one is going to work. So let's discuss this nice and slow. Again, you will always start with the question stem. It just asks you a question. Is A less than B? So this time the question stem gives you nothing. In the last one, it did tell you that Z is an integer and the absolute value is less than 6. This time you have nothing. So obviously nothing is given in the question stem. You go to statement 1. Statement 1 now is this, that the absolute value of A minus B is equal to B minus A. Now here's a small thing that you need to understand. Observe it here on the right hand side. If I say mod of x is y, then think about it. Since y is the absolute value of a number of x, y cannot be negative, right? It has to be non-negative. That means it can be 0 or positive, greater than equal to 0. Therefore, even here in your question, this b minus a, because it is the absolute value of something, has to be non-negative. It has to be greater than equal to a. So you get b greater than equal to a from here. Now b greater than equal to a means b is either greater than a or it is equal to a. This, but what was my question? Is a less than b or is b greater than a? But you didn't have that, right? It's either greater or equal. It's a maybe. So statement 1 is not sufficient. So all of those who marked option A, you most likely forgot the equal part. Tell me in the short answer part if that is what happened. For all of those who marked A, and even those who marked D, because you thought this was sufficient. Yes. So I thought correct. All right. Oh my God, that's so many yeses. So then you people found another problem area in your own understanding. This is what these sessions are most useful for. I mean, I would love something that could tell me where I am faltering. I alone am faltering. I can then correct my mistake. If I don't know what I'm doing, how do I correct it? Use these, every question you get wrong as opportunities. If it is equal to B, I mean B is equal to A or greater than A, you cannot say for sure that it's greater than A. So this is not sufficient. With this, then we are going to go to the second statement, which is this: A over B is less than 1. Now, for all those of you who just multiplied both sides by B, you would think it is sufficient and you would mark yes. So 22% of you thought it's B, you called this sufficient. And even for those who said D, so really 45% of you made this huge mistake despite knowing this concept that if you multiply a negative number, then the inequality will flip. Everything here depends on B. If B is a negative number, then the inequality will flip. It'll become A greater than B. So it's yes or no. It's a maybe. So statement 2 is also not sufficient. Tell me, is this exactly what happened? You forgot the concept. Short answer pod. Now is the time to talk. Yes. This just means that we're not taking the learnings from previous questions to the next one. And unless we learn to do that, we will not see true growth. Promise yourself to learn and to absorb things and use them. Okay, so since both of them are not sufficient, we take them together. Really, just 21% of the entire group went on to considering them together. Then they got divided among C and E, but just 21%. 79% faltered already at one of these steps. Now let me take them together. From statement 1, I have these two cases. B is either equal to A or it's greater than A. From the second one, B is either greater than A or less than A. Now, since both statements have to hold true together, that's what it means to use the statements together. The only case that is there in both of them is this, the one highlighted here. So A definitely is less than B, and therefore you can see a sure yes. The accuracy here is the lowest ever, 6% accuracy. The correct answer is C. Tell me, guys, in the short answer pod, what are your biggest takeaways from this question? Doubts about the question, please in the Q&A pod. Once we are done, I will not be able to repeat it. Mod is greater than equal to 0. Evaluate the statements properly. Yeah. Focus and concept. Yes. Loved this question. Yeah, I love this one too. Analysis of statement B was the biggest takeaway. Considering the equal to question. Many takeaways. Account for 0. Denominator can be negative. Yes, it just cannot be 0. Great. Think as many combinations. Yes, this is, a process skill. Consider all cases. You need to consider everything that's possible. Did not consider both together. Yes, because you thought one of them was sufficient. That's why you didn't consider them together. One of the faltering points on the way. All right, great. Be more careful. Now that I'm going to show you the next question, you just mark still solving and then I'll have it there for you. It's getting very slow. Show some more interaction here. Let's keep this engaging. We're almost towards the end of the session now. Okay, good. Number 8. Good luck. Ending the poll in 15 seconds. Okay, here are your responses. The majority went with A, but we have votes for C and E as well. So it's again not a very sure vote. So let's discuss this in detail. Then B and D got very few votes. Okay, let's discuss this. So in the question stem, all you have is a question. Is Z greater than 2? So the question stem itself is not giving you anything. This question can feel intimidating because it has a lot. It has a square, it has an absolute value, it has an inequality, so it can feel scary. But if you just stick to all the concepts that you learned, it's not going to be difficult. So here, as I said, the question stem itself has nothing. You wanted to find is z greater than 2, but nothing in the question stem, so you straight move to your statements. Statement 1 is this, that mod of z minus 2 whole squared is greater than 4. Now, at this moment, you need to come here on the right hand side. Think about it, it's the square of a number. It's non-negative, 0 or positive. So even the absolute value will be 0 or positive. Modulus is not going to change anything. Modulus does what? It makes a negative number into positive. So if it's already non-negative, what is it going to do? That means I really don't need the modulus at all. I can just remove the modulus. It's like saying mod of 4. Well, mod of 4 is equal to 4 only because it's a positive number. Similarly, mod of 0 is equal to 0 only. So here, that's the first thing we'll do. We'll just remove the modulus. Now, a very simple way to simplify this, instead of, actually opening the whole square and making a quadratic inequality, it's to write 4 as 2 squared and then take it to the left side. Now this becomes in the form of an identity, a squared minus b squared. And a squared minus b squared is a minus b, a plus b. So here your a is z minus 2 and your b is 2. So you use that to express it this way. Then it's simple, it's a product of two numbers, z minus 4 and 4 greater than 0. You use the wavy line method again. What are your 0 points? This one will be 0 at 4. This one will be 0 at 0. So you just mark 0 and 4. Then it's going to be above the number line. That means it's going to be positive in the rightmost interval. Now, after that, keep alternating it. So draw it. Now, overall, you want it to be positive. So what are the two places where it's positive? Either greater than 4 or less than 0. So these are the two ranges. Z is less than 0 or greater than 4. But my question is it greater than 2? I don't know. If it is here, it's not greater than 2 at all. But if it's here, it is greater than 2. That means my answer is a maybe. It may or may not be greater than 2, and that's when you call a statement insufficient. So all those of you who marked A or you marked D, you were wrong here. Tell me in the chat pod, only these people, no questions otherwise, please. Tell me why you thought this was sufficient. What was the step you faltered at now that I've discussed this? Missed Z less than 0. So this, coming to this stage and then solving the inequality is coming from the previous questions. You took the under root of both sides. Yes, that's how you miss the negatives. If I say x squared is greater than 9 and you just say x is greater than 3 because of the square root, you're missing all the values of x less than minus 3. You have to consider the negatives. All right, so most of us did that. Good. So all of you found out the problem here. You didn't solve the inequality the way you had learned. We did not learn taking the square root anywhere till now. But yes, we didn't have a question where it was a square on both sides. So it's okay for you to try that. But now that you know how that is wrong, be more careful next time onwards. I incorrectly tested this. So you tested the wrong question. It's correct. I mean, z minus 2 whole squared is greater than 4. That's what we're doing. Anyway, so statement 1 is insufficient. Now let's go to statement 2, which says this thing. 8x minus 4k, mod of that is z. There's so many unknowns. I don't know x, I don't know k, I don't know z. Looks scary. Remember, you want to know this z. You want to know whether this is greater than 2 or not. Now think about it. This z, first of all, has to be greater than equal to 0 because it's the absolute value of something, whatever it is in the world. So two cases. Z is either 0, which will happen if 8x minus 4k is 0. That means if 8x is equal to 4k. Don't care about what x and k are. It's just 8x equal to 4k. I can have so many values where that can happen. And it can also be positive. So you really don't know. You don't even know whether it's greater than equal to 0. Question was, is it greater than 2? There's no relationship with 2 at all. I just know it's either 0 or positive. So statement 2 does not give me much. So all those of you who marked B and D, you were 9% of you. So a small percentage, but yes, we did that. Be careful. Now I'm going to combine the statements. Now that we see both statements individually just failed. When you combine them, you take the information you get from both of them. So from this first one, what did you have? You had these two cases. It's either less than 0 or greater than 4. And from the second one, you had two cases again that it's either 0 or positive. Since it's an AND, both of them have to be true together. What is the possibility? Z negative is not possible at all with this second one because here it's either 0 or positive. It's not negative at all. Only one that matches is z greater than 4 with z being positive, right? It can't be 0. So when you combine all of it, you get z greater than 4. If it's greater than 4, it's obviously greater than 2, which was your question. So it's a sure shot yes. So C is the correct answer. 23% of you got this correct, which is a low accuracy, pretty low. 77% of us got this wrong. So the 24% who marked E, you just messed up at the last stage, combining the statements. Tell me your learnings, everybody, from this question now in the short answer pod. Amazing. I learned from all the previous examples. Wonderful. That's the magic. Did not combine. You have to combine if you take two statements together. So combining was a problem area for a lot of you. Missed z equal to mod, therefore positive. Mod of square. So when you can remove the mod in the first step. I could apply the concepts properly. Wonderful. Even though the second statement looked complicated, just needed logic. Yes, need to practice. Of course, practice is the key, but the right kind of questions and learning from every question is important, not just doing a lot of questions. Misinterpreted the first statement. Ah, can you explain z less than? It's just how you solve inequalities. When you'll watch the videos, you'll see the recording, you'll see how we have to consider both cases in the wavy line method. Whenever it's a mistake that we're making, despite learning a concept in the previous questions, that just means you need to go over that concept again. Z greater than 2 could be 3 as well. Yeah, it could be. We just want it to be greater than 2. That's it. Didn't try to infer anything from statement 2 because there were too many variables. Yes, I understand that fear factor. We just think, okay, no, it's not happening. Take the intersection. Okay. All right, so we've read all of these comments. DS is messy. No, really, you just have to have the right technique for solving data sufficiency questions. It's like the very fine-tuned approach, just the question stem, then just statement one, then just statement two, then combining them. With the right concepts, believe me, this can all be done. It's mostly to silly mistakes that we miss things. You can master GMAT quant. You can improve from a very low quant score just if you focus on the learning. You take things forward, use your concepts and apply the process skills. The consider the cases, all the cases, and the constraint, and all of those things that we did, those are special process skills. If you just do these things properly, you won't have a problem. Krish is an example here. This person, he's one of those who thought they are good with quant. So you can read his review on GMAT Club. He had always done well in quant, but GMAT was different. You might have realized that today. GMAT is not exactly like every other school test or college test. He constantly faltered when he answered GMAT questions because he fell in these traps that you guys fell in today. When you realize, oh, I forgot this, oh, I missed that, this is what happened, right? But once he started following a structured approach for DS, he in fact writes this down, he changed the entire approach for data sufficiency. He saw the change happen. And ultimately, see, he ended up with the highest ever score, the highest possible score on quant that you can get, Q51. Then this is about Leonardo. This is someone who's not been very good with GMAT quant. He was stuck with a Q45, just could not cross it. But he wanted that great score. So what happened was this methodical approach. Follow the right approach so that you don't repeat the same mistakes. Today I saw a lot of repeat mistakes, by the way. You people missed a lot of things that you learned in the previous questions. You missed this repeat thing. Once you get over that, you will have a good time. Our platform is something that can give you the right analytics so that you can find where you're weak instead of having to just think, okay, this is something I'm confused about. This analysis can help you, and then you can work on just those problem areas. Here's then Mazibar, one more person. So he was extremely weak in quant. Q30 is just 20th percentile. Just 20% of the people scored below him. That means 80% of the people scored more than him. It's a low score, but it happens. It happens. Ultimately, he reached here, Q45. This is the magic. This is where you can get if you just learn properly. The progressive architecture of e-GMAT, this is what he benefited from. You must have witnessed that today. Progressive level of questions, getting feedback at the right time. This is where you're making mistakes. This is what's happening. You know, do that properly. Now, here's Guillermo. Again, amazing story, extremely strong determination. He had to go to the top B schools, but he realized he needed a very good quant score for that to get into Wharton and GSB Chicago. Only way was to improve his quant score. U38 is not high at all. He focused on learning, watched the video lessons, but he was short on time, by the way. So he used the analytics in Scholaranium to exactly find his problem areas. I love the comments, by the way. Thank you for all of those wonderful comments. Remember now, to ace the GMAT, you just have to focus on learning, adopting good habits. It's all about habits. Follow the right things. Let's make this big now. Let's read all of what you say. So get started right away. Use the videos we sent your way. Use them and cement your understanding from today. Watch the video, make best use of it, and you're going to see the magic. These are the next steps. Ensure you have 200% clarity in the concepts. No problem in the concepts, okay? Because otherwise, application is going to be difficult. Questions have to be solved step by step. Don't take shortcuts, they don't work, okay? Become an active reader of question statements. Trust the test maker. You're not going to get anything that you've never seen before. As you saw, all the concepts were the same. Believe in what you've learned, just apply them with confidence. Review all algebra questions in the free trial if you're not a member of e-GMAT already. Solve practice questions in the PDF that we're going to share with you, and solve questions on our platform on Scholaranium, 35 of them. Okay. Can you send the link to the videos? The videos are there in the lobby. The in the initial stage you had found this. You will find them on the e-GMAT platform also. Just go and log in, and you will have access to the free videos. As for the next session, I am not sure. I am not sure, honestly. Atreya usually knows them. Ashutosh, if you know, please chime in. I am not sure. The PDF will be shared. Ashutosh, please share the PDF. And use this session. Overall, I am very glad you liked all of this today. The material for today's session, you're going to have the recording sent to you tomorrow. And yes, I loved this today. This is wonderful. I love all these comments. Thank you. I will see you again in another session. Until then, stay safe. Happy learning. Bye bye.